Well, welcome to White Pill Radio, the every other episode about version of theology on air that is post-apologetic, ultimately hopeful, applied theology that looks at news and current events from a Christian worldview. I like to say that this is blessed talk, but not happy talk. So what we like to do on these episodes is look at really pretty timely, intersectional, if you will, news articles that look at this, where faith and news and politics and pop culture, where they all might kind of intersect and maybe offer some insights on that or reflections on that. So I'm Evan McClanahan. I'm the pastor here at First Lutheran, joined by two familiar faces. We were going to have a third, but he couldn't make it, but he's going to be on the next episode for sure. And I should say, Sarah could not be here today, unfortunately. So Sarah, we miss you. We love you. We hope you, come back to the next one. But obviously this episode or this show is an outgrowth of Theology by the Pint, which you can learn more about, theologybythepint.com, .org, .net, all of those sorts of things, and learn about our future events. We have one coming up in Sugar Land pretty soon. We've had some interesting past events. Anyway, theologybythepint.com, go there to learn more, learn how you can donate, learn how you can help this, ministry keep going. But let's jump in. I've got two guests, Mace, Perez, and Juan Martinez. Why don't you guys say a little bit about yourself, say where people can find you, etc.
Juan Martinez. I'm a PCA pastor. That's Presbyterian Church in America here in Houston.
And I'm Mace Perez. I am a church planter and pastor in the Heights area, planting the Journey Church Houston.
Cool. Got a website?
thejourneyhouston.org.
All right. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, let's just dive in. Lots of stuff to talk about today. And this was an article that struck my attention. One of the things, obviously one of the major, social issues is the whole LGBT question. It's, debated in the church. It's debated in the culture. I don't know if y'all remember years ago, but, Murphy Brown, I think, had an episode about a lesbian or so. Anyway, it's been around since the 90s. But one of the arguments against people like me, who's kind of more conservative or traditional on these sorts of questions, is, well, what do you care? What do you care what people do in the privacy of their own home? What kind of weirdo are you that you go around thinking about what people are up to in their bedroom, et cetera, et cetera? And what we try to say is, well, wait a second. If you kind of redefine marriage and you redefine, kind of what adults ought to be doing, then ultimately you're going to change the nature of the family. And you could start redefining what it means to be family, and you might end up showing kind of preferential treatment, towards one group of people or another. And some preferential treatment actually is a good thing. Like we would not want to put, for example, foster children with, known pedophiles, right? We would have a preferential treatment not to do that. But that is one of the arguments that people like us have made. Like, hey, if you go around redefining marriage, then you're going to you might create kind of this special class of people, the LGBT community, who are raising children, and maybe they ought not to raise children. Maybe we have this preference for one man and one woman in this thing we call marriage, who have committed to one another, for all of time, and they provide a stable household for the rearing of children. This, sorry for the preamble, but this article is an example where some of us are worried that if this comes to pass, Christians are essentially going to be kicked out of the foster care system entirely. So this is an article called Take Action, and this is an advocacy website, but Biden's proposed rule will drive Christians from foster care. And I'll read a couple of paragraphs here. It says, the Biden administration is proposing yet another rule that directly targets the Christian faith. The rule, the euphemistically named Safe and Appropriate Foster Care Placement Requirements, will require foster parents to, quote, utilize the child's identified pronouns, chosen name, and allow the children to dress in an age-appropriate manner that the child believes reflect their self-identified gender identity and expression. Those who do not, quote-unquote, affirm the LGBTQ rules because of their Christian faith will be deemed, quote, unsafe by the Biden administration and ultimately rejected as foster parent candidates. In response to the proposed rule, attorneys general from 19 states have written a letter urging the Biden administration to reverse course. As of 2022, there are approximately 391,000 children in foster care. So anyway, my blood boils when I read this sort of thing, because basically what we now consider normal is basically to affirm a child in what they think their gender is. which is, I think, on the face of it, pretty crazy. But it seems like what they're trying to do is edge out normal, run-of-the-mill Christians who think that God made them male and female, who think that, children are made either male or female, and that they ought not to be brainwashed into believing that they are in the wrong body or something to that effect. So to me, this just smacks of a really dangerous absurdity that is basically placing Christians now firmly outside the norm, and with government action. So I don't know. What do y'all think?
Well, as a former foster parent and an adoptive father, I mean, my first reaction in a word is lament, and just thinking about, it's been several years since I've heard the latest statistics, but when we were more actively involved in foster care in the state of Texas, there was a 200% shortage of homes. There was twice as many children in the system as there are homes. And I know, the largest block of people that I know that are actively trying to engage in that space are Christians. And so my immediate thought is to exclude Christians from that. The only people, how is that safe for children, right? That's right. One of the most unsafe things you can do for children is remove one of the key blocks of people that is providing safe, loving homes for these children.
Yeah.
Yes. And, it plays into this new understanding of what it means to be human, and how there are better kinds of human beings than others, right? And it's a very Marxist way, ultimately, to look at the world, the oppressor versus the oppressed. And so therefore, certain kinds of human beings, in this case Christians, are lesser than other kinds of human beings, and therefore we are, quote, unsafe. One of the ironies in this is that any child, and certainly foster children, need love more than anything else. And in affirming the binary male, female, father, mother household, that is a way, that is a kind of relationship that through love actually engenders more life, for example, right? If you don't have that, there is no life outside of that binary. And so you're a child who comes to alive through a relationship between a man and a woman, and therefore the very first, it is love that produces that child. It won't be able to even see that kind of relationship that leads to life. You're prohibiting them if the father and the mother hold to a biblical worldview of marriage.
Right.
So,
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of rabbit holes. One thought I have too, though, is that when did the foster system itself begin? Because, if you watch, say, I don't know, Annie, or even Oliver, or any other musical with a one named of a kid. Anyway, orphanage is what I'm going for here. There used to be these things called orphanages, and it's kind of heralded in Christian history that Christians began orphanages. They saved babies, that the Romans had let out, to die, that they didn't want to have, and things of that nature. And the foster care, I understand the orphanage system has problems. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Annie, that crazy, women like Carol Burnett drink too much and don't take care of the little girls. But seriously, I mean, orphanages can be problems. They can be sort of wholesale places where abuses do take place. On the other hand, if orphanages can be run effectively, it seems like maybe that's something we should reconsider, just like we've sort of taken, asylums off the market because of, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. As I'm starting to think about it, I'm starting to think there's some grand conspiracy against these institutions facilitated by Hollywood. Anyway, so there's these institutions that we've lost. So we've privatized the orphanage in a case-by-case thing through foster homes, of which many are wonderful, I'm sure. And people like Mace, sacrifice greatly to care for these children. But sometimes they fall into the hands of terrible people, of wicked people. And there's no one to advocate for those kids. So I don't know, maybe we need to kind of rethink the whole foster system itself. But, to me, it's just crazy to think that what we considered normal just a few years ago, is now considered unsafe and dangerous to children.
Right.
Whereas Juan Carlos was saying, the thing that's unsafe would be to, I don't know, mutilate a child's, genitals, so they can't have children in a few years because of a temporary condition, or I don't know. So this to me really is a good example, though, of the intersection and of if people like me are correct in saying that we're living through a kind of cultural revolution where now it's gone from the academy, it's gone from now popular culture, it's now getting its fingers into the apparatus, to the political, to the judicial, to the legislative apparatus, where this is enforceable now. This is a pretty good example, I would think, of saying, yeah, the revolution is here. And the Christians are on the wrong side, and so the thought police are coming in and saying, sorry, you can't be Christian anymore. You can't believe what common sense tells you, that there's only male and female. You have to believe these absurd things. So anyway, well, moving on, JC, sorry, I really need to call you Juan Carlos, so apologize for that. What you got for us today?
So the article that I wanted to talk about is from The Guardian, and it was a November 20th piece by, I don't know if this is how you pronounce her name, Elena Demopoulos, it looks like. And the title of the article is "Young Americans Are Picking Up the Quran to Understand the Resilience of Muslim Palestinians." And so essentially the summary of the article is it showcases 5 different Muslim women, 3 of them converts to Islam, 2 who were, from what I can tell, born and raised as Muslims. And they opine that after reading the Quran, they were surprised at how their own values align with the teachings of the Quran. And the values that they list are feminism, and being anti-oppressive, being anti-consumerist, environmentalism, being pro-science, being tolerant, and in general progressive. And so these are, this is from the extreme left, one might even say, women mainly who are turning to this and are finding that their views are right there. They're affirmed in the Quran based on the way they're reading this. The factors causing them to turn to the Quran, to pick it up and read it, are the strong faith and resilience of Palestinians, especially after October 7th. And also for a couple of them, they mentioned the post-September 11th vilification of Islam and the empathy that they felt for Muslims as they saw this. So now there's this hashtag on TikTok, is hashtag Quran Book Club, that has over 2 million followers. And these are a group of mostly women that are reading the Quran and doing videos about what is meaning for them. And so again, when asked what is it that attracted you to this, it's resilience, faith, moral strength, and character of Muslim Palestinians, especially in Gaza. Others said that hate crimes and xenophobic language against Muslims also drove them to read the Quran, and they were surprised by this.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the weirder trends. Young people reading the Quran. But I'm going to go to the white pill right away. It won't last, because, if young people were really that interested in religion, I think I'd see a few more people in church on Sundays, It's kind of like, remember in the 80s, there was a lot of concern about the cults. You had the Kingdom of the Cults book, you had Walter Martin out there. There are a lot of anti-cult ministries, a lot of anti-Mormon ministry, not anti, but, providing an alternate view to Mormonism or Jehovah's Witness, and, Christian Science and even Scientology at the time, all this sort of thing. And what do you see now? They're all in the same boat, kind of we are, I think they're struggling to find people. I think they're in far worse shape because their oddities are out there for all to find quickly on the internet, which is why the Mormon Church buys up every domain. When you do a Google search, they're all Mormon, pops that come up. Anyway, so there's a part of me that's well, this is interesting, but it's probably a fad. But I also think about it's a cliche that God made us in His image, but in our rebellion, what we've done is made God in our image, right? So the idea is that people, they want God to be like them, or to affirm them. And that's, you did a great summary of, would you read those again? In fact, Who is the
things
God
that-
of Islam? What are the things he affirms again? Environmentalism?
Yes, no,
Feminism.
it's so interesting. So he said feminism, right? That as a feminist, I find the Quran affirming me, right? That's interesting, right?
And by the way, this article doesn't have like explanations of that I could find. You know, like
No,
it's feminist because what? Because what? Not
That's right.
polygamy,
yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff that is just
women are
being
respected.
claimed,
Yeah.
but there's not substantiated. I mean, you wonder if the Taliban, for example, would agree that the Quran is feminist, or the way that women have to dress if you're Muslim, for example. Does that affirm your feminism? Environmentalism. Well, if oil, for example, is on the wrong side of environmentalism, take a look at OPEC and see what countries are there. Science. Well, if you think about in Islam, really, what's the ideal life? It's the life of Muhammad. So you're talking about a 6th century life, and everything that Muhammad does, that's what you would aspire to do. Mm-hmm. Well, that's hardly a promotion of a scientific worldview. Not to mention, for example, things like if you go to Israel, and you see how much archaeology is uncovering all these things that go back for First Temple period. Well, why is that only being uncovered now? Well, it was because when Islam had control over Jerusalem, full control over Jerusalem, you couldn't do any excavation because they would say, no, Israel has never been here. The Jewish people do not have. So that's not a very scientific way to look at it. Also, anti-consumerism. Well, I've never been to Dubai, but I wonder if the tourist industry in Dubai are you going there because of its history, or are you going there because of materialism?
Or to get a good deal on a Lamborghini because it's sitting there in the dust, not being driven by the princes anymore.
Yes. Tolerance. Well, what our Christian brothers think about what it's like to live in Muslim countries, or Jews, what's happened with them, or women, right? Or the LGBTQ community. So it's just very strange that these are specific characteristics that they say, that they affirm in their own worldview, and they say, oh, the Quran affirms all these things. I think it shows us how our education system continues to fail us, and people are not trained anymore to think critically.
Yeah.
You're looking for anything that will affirm your worldview, and you will even invent it if you have to. So I can talk a little bit about the white pill in a moment, but what do you say, Mace, about this?
Yeah, I think similar responses to y'all. I was just thinking similar to what you were saying, Evan, the whole idea that the propensity of the human heart to make God in our image. I think it's a cautionary tale to us to recognize that all of us, because of our sin nature, are selective readers, by nature. And so we have to watch that tendency even in ourselves of, picking out the parts of the Bible or whatever book that we like because it seems to affirm what we already believe, or, vice versa, and just glossing over the parts that we don't like, that are a little difficult. I had a seminary professor that, talked how most of us read commentary. We think commentaries are there to, help us understand the Bible. He's like, the way most people read commentaries is you read a passage and it'll say, this is the 5 views, and you just wind up picking the view that you already believed anyway. So I think it's a cautionary tale to us that we need to watch out for that tendency. I guess on the more positive side, maybe this is kind of a white pill take, is if this can happen with Islam, why could it not happen with Christianity? If we believe what we have, what is more true and better and more beautiful, then thinking about like the resilience of the Muslim Palestinians, like Christians of all people should be resilient. That you look at the New Testament, so many of the letters are calls to endure, and so my hope would be, I guess, that if this is what's happening with Islam, that Christians today can likewise show good character, can live distinct lives that might inspire people to read our holy book.
Hey guys, Sarah here. Sorry to interrupt what I'm sure is an amazing podcast episode, but I just wanted to tell you that Theology by the Pint is growing. We are now a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're expanding. This coming year, with your help, we'll grow our reach by adding events in multiple Houston suburbs, as well as launch a youth version. Don't worry, those will be pints of iced coffee, not beer. We're adding follow-up conversations to reach the spiritually curious and the unchurched. We're also growing our connections and partnerships with more local churches. And you can help us grow by praying for us, by telling your friends or church about us, and of course, by partnering with us financially. To donate, go to theologybythepint.org/give. You know, if each of our podcast listeners gave $100, we would reach our annual budget right then. Consider donating today. Okay, enjoy the rest of the show.
And likewise,
Well,
convert.
I don't want to black pill you, but I think the reason it wouldn't happen in Christianity is because Christianity is the dominant power,
Right,
You
right.
know, and so it doesn't fit the narrative of the oppressed and championing the oppressed, which is And by the way, all those things there are many Christians who champion those things in the name of Christ, right?
Yeah.
Environmentalism. Actually, there's not a bad case to be made for good stewardship,
Of course.
In fact, I think there's a strong case to be made, for having dominion, which would necessitate some form of environmentalism, or as it's called. Feminism, I think you can argue that Judaism lifts up women above the culture surrounding it for sure. Anyway, you could go down the list.
Right.
And obviously there's progressive Christianity, which would be the version, I think, of those kind of championing Christ. But what we usually end up seeing there is, as we've talked about so many times, like deconstruction. Mm-hmm. Like they're not willing to embrace ultimately fully Orthodox Christianity because they just want the version of Christianity that suits their worldview that they've found to be the most beneficial, I guess.
Yeah, which is no Christianity at all. Right?
Exactly.
If you call it progressive Christianity, let's call it a different religion. Right?
But if on a long enough timeline, Christianity will become the oppressed, and it'll become popular again. So,
well, and it's not even a matter of a timeline. It's also geographic, right? It already is the oppressed religion, just in other parts of the world.
Yeah, well,
right?
like I just said, you can't be a foster parent,
Yes,
apparently.
yes. So just quickly, so from a theological perspective, right? The Bible tells us that God is the author and the interpreter of truth. 2 Peter 1:19-21, for example, that men didn't just write their own opinions, essentially, right? But they were carried along by the Holy Spirit. And this is what they wrote. Romans 1, really beginning with verse 18 and following, also saying that, God reveals himself in the things that he has made, and yet our minds have been darkened, and we have ultimately chosen to worship the creature rather than the creator. Today, young people are taught that they determine who they are, and also how people should react to their, quote, truth, right? So they put themselves at the center instead of God. From an anthropological perspective, the Bible says that all men are created equal, and all human beings are created equal and have equal dignity and worth because we're made in the image of God in Genesis 1:26-27. Islam posits that infidels, for example, are a lower kind of human being than Muslims are. They have different kinds of rights than Muslims have. So that's not a biblical way to look at things. Epistemologically as well, the way that we interpret truth, understand truth, the way we think, the Bible teaches that the fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. In Proverbs 1:7, and also that our minds have been darkened, Romans 1:21, and that they need to be renewed, Romans 12:2, for us to understand correctly. Well, young people today are taught that they create truth according to how they feel, and they, this is why how you can have an LGBTQ person marching alongside a Hamas supporter, right? The people have been calling that chickens for KFC, right? It's a strange time. There's an epistemological failure there, and finally, soteriologically, the Bible teaches us that our hope is in Jesus Christ and in His righteousness, an alien righteousness that is imputed to us and is received by us by faith. For many young people, they really have a Marxist hope of overcoming an oppressive system, and that's how you're going to find happiness and joy and freedom. I think it's interesting because this is nothing new, right? Mm-hmm. For example, in Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis, their Screwtape writes to Wormwood that it's not by argument that you're going to convince your friend to stay away from the church, it's by jargon. He says, right? By propaganda, essentially. People used to know how to interpret arguments, how to reason. Now, the people don't really know how to do that. You put so much data and so many thoughts inside a person's mind that you just confuse them, you distract them, and then you just invoke feelings, whatever seems like a strong it makes you feel strong or courageous or bold or whatever, and that's enough. It doesn't have to actually have merit. That's where we are today, right? It's this aesthetic, essentially. I think the white pill, I would agree with Mace on this, that the very things that they list, right, that attract them to the Quran, in this case, a strong faith, resilience, moral strength, character, that's actually very encouraging that these are the things that they're looking for, because that's exactly the kinds of things that we as Christians are supposed to display. You know, I think
but kind of don't.
Well, don't, right?
Yeah.
And that is the problem.
Yeah.
That's how we get here.
Yeah.
But I think that, to your point, actually, Evan, as the culture in the West and certainly in this country continue to work as a sift, you know, the wheat from the chaff. If you don't display these things, you won't survive as a Christian, because it will be very costly to be a Christian.
Yeah.
And so, and by the same token, it will be attractive because we will demonstrate that we have character, that we have a strong faith, that we're living for something that's more important than we are. But what we have that they don't have is that we have the Holy Spirit. Right? And the Lord is the Spirit. 2 Corinthians 3:17, the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of God is, there's freedom. Neither Islam nor this inquisitorial secular humanism that dominates our society today is free. It is actually very much, it invites people to be in bondage. Well, Christianity actually is where freedom is found, and I think that is the distinctive, that it works in our favor.
Yeah. You know, it's just such an odd trend, because it's like, are the Palestinian people really free? I mean, like in their own governance, you know, are they living prosperous, joyful lives? And just because they're victims, let's just say that we disagree with the Israeli military campaign. You know, let's say that if Sarah were here, she'd be kicking me for even proposing this as a kind of theoretical possibility. Let's just say that Israel was wrong. It's overreacting to the events of October 7th. But is it normally our custom to look at victims of violence or victims of warfare, when they arguably started it, but anyway, as somehow now we need to be on their side because, you know, for example, when Nazis were dying, I broke the rule, I brought up Nazis first, but, you know, when Nazis were dying, you know, when we're storming beaches and, you know, going into Belgian towns or whatever the case may be, where we're like, oh, those poor Nazis, you know, and you could, you know, oh, the poor Japanese who are defending their island valiantly. Well, actually, they were defending it valiantly, and I can respect, you know, personal courage or something like that. But at the end of the day, you know, did we say, well, maybe we should adopt the emperor of, you know, Japan as our own, you know, emperor, or maybe we should really think about this Hitler guy, give him another look, you know? Why are we doing it now? What has changed to where the Palestinians, you know, are kind of an exalted group? They have exalted ideals, you know, that are actually worth a second look. So, and the only thing I can think of is that there is this, as already been said, it's kind of a neo-Marxist quest to find truth in the Hegelian dialectic working itself out, you know, of thesis and antithesis and synthesis. So you need these conflicts to get to the parity, which is our ultimate hope. That's the best we have, you know. So it's like, well, this is the process by which I guess we finally will get rid of the powerful, and the common man, the little man, will finally achieve some sort of equality. I don't know. I'm guessing that's what the worldview is, but it's just bizarre because we didn't. I mean, I don't remember, say, in 1991 when we were like trying to liberate Kuwait or something, where people were like, "Oh, the poor Iraqi people," you know. So I say that these days though, because the war that we waged there in 2003. Was actually a lot of innocent Iraqi people did die. So anyway,
no, and it's interesting that that something like October 7th, where if you look at the events of October 7th, there are no questions on that day.
Yeah, who the victims were.
Who the victims were, right?
Yeah.
And yet the response is, oh, empathy for the Palestinians in Gaza. Now, the suffering there is horrific, to be sure. And I think certainly as Christians, we ought to be praying that that peace will be reinstated quickly. But we also are deflecting responsibility, right? Hamas was elected by Palestinians. This was celebrated as well. So
and they would be reelected.
And they would be reelected. That's why there's no elections in the West Bank, for example, right? So anyway, it is a running away from truth, but also a denial of right and wrong that is so dangerous, and it's by design.
Yeah. All right. As you said, Mace, we have a palate cleanser.
Yes.
Thankfully. What you got for us?
Well, we talk about so many like weighty and heavy matters. I just need to lighten the mood a little bit.
I don't know. He's pretty weighty,
right? I don't know. He's old. He's not as buff anymore. But Hulk Hogan the other day posted online a video of him and his wife being baptized at a church in Florida, along with the caption that reads, "Total surrender and dedication to Jesus is the greatest day of my life. No worries, no hate, no judgment. Only love." And so, I mean, for me, the white pill just writes itself right there, just seeing a brother get baptized, So, and from what I can tell, the little bit of reading I did, he claims to have given his life to Christ a long time ago. I don't know why he was just now getting baptized, but it's just nice to have a little bit of good news in the world.
Yeah. There was Hans Feeney, who does Lutheran satire, if you've seen the YouTube videos, he said, well, of course, being Lutheran, we believe in one baptism, and I guess Baptist too as well. Anyway, but he was like, I wonder how many times he's been baptized, because he does say, like, he tweeted back in Easter, like, that he was 14 when he gave his life to the Lord. That's from the same article on Not the Bee. Is that put out by the Babylon Bee as like their actual kind of news story?
Yes,
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I'm like,
stories so crazy that you would think that they are satire, but they are real.
Exactly.
Yeah. As opposed to the Babylon Bee, right, which is fake news you can trust.
Fake news you can trust. Genius slogan. Genius.
Absolutely.
But and he was embroiled in a few salacious scandals. I don't know, 10, 15 years ago or something like that. He maybe dated some of the wrong women and. Anyway, or something to that effect. Of course, growing up, I mean, I watched Hulk Hogan on Saturday morning. I don't know, y'all might be too young for that, but I had 3 channels, no cable. I mean, what do you do when you wake up
by
on
the time I was a kid?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I guess we had 4 too, if you turned the rabbit ears the right way. Right. But anyway, so we watched, a lot of Hulk Hogan, and of course he makes that amazing appearance in Rocky 3, the exhibition bout with Rocky there. Anyway, so I'm a Hulk Hogan fan. He's a cool dude. I mean, great actor, great character, great wrestler. He's huge. What is he, like 6'7", 320 pounds at his height, something like that. I'm actually seeing this as kind of a trend as I listen to, political or cultural podcasts and things like that. It does seem like maybe there's a white pill angle or something, but like there are a number of people who are sort of not Christian or who are nominal Christian who are kind of coming around and like, I really need to rethink this whole Christianity thing because the alternative seems to be pretty much fizzled out. I mean, there's just nothing there. I'm thinking of someone like Tucker Carlson, for example, who kind of, always jokes that he grew up, kind of nominal Episcopalian, and that's barely Christianity to our Episcopal friends who aren't here to defend themselves in that. So I apologize, but that's just what he said. It's kind of a cultural thing. But he's really talking more about like how the importance of Christianity for like kind of a social bedrock and a moral foundation of a society, and or even someone like Tim Pool, who's not a Christian, but talks about, well, yeah, but this, we're a Christian nation, for example, or this is a Christian society, and if it's not that, then what is it? So you have to have this as a moral framework. And even though he has, and I hope one day he is baptized. But I do think that there is an interesting move, and maybe it's just anecdotal, but I'm hopeful that there will be people who kind of look around and is like, no, I don't like what they're selling anymore. I don't like what Hollywood is selling. I don't like what they're talking about at the university. I don't like what they're talking to my kid about in school. these aren't my values, so what are my values? And they're kind of going back, well, grandma and grandpa seemed to live a pretty good life. They were good people. What do they believe? Where did they meet? How do they spend their Sundays? I don't know. Is that just me, or do y'all notice that too? Or is it just, I don't know. Is it all just downhill? I don't know.
It's hard to gauge because now with social media, it's very easy to post something.
Yeah.
Right. So who knows if this is happening more now, or maybe this has always been the case as people get older and you realize, oh my goodness, what have I done with my life? I thought I would find happiness here. I haven't found it. So maybe the ancient paths are the right paths to be walking on. It's to be celebrated when it happens, but with the caution that, we need to not put our own trust in any one person and their walk, because you never know, right? There have been many people who have made a profession of faith, gotten baptized, and then, deconstruct or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we just have to be careful not to be too attached to any one person. We live in a celebrity culture. Mm-hmm. Obviously, celebrities, by virtue of who they are, have the opportunity to have a greater impact with their actions, both for good or for bad. And so we ought to celebrate when people that are well known make professions of faith for Jesus. But at the same time, we need to give them time to grow, mm-hmm. to hopefully be discipled, be connected to a good gospel proclaiming church where the gospel is proclaimed faithfully, where the sacraments are administered faithfully, where church discipline is administered, and then continue to try to live our own Christian lives faithfully as well.
Well, Paul says something about new converts, right? And essentially, don't put them in charge too soon. Mm-hmm. Yes. Let's see what they're made of first. So, and the thing about conversion stories is they go the other way too. Mm-hmm. Like we just read. The converts to Islam.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't mean Islam is true. Right. It just means certain. And Hulk Hogan, not necessarily a convert, but as an example, him getting baptized doesn't make Christianity true either.
Right.
So it is true, but that doesn't make it true. But yeah. So some cautionary stuff there, but hey, I'm always glad. I think these guys that get caught up in fame and money, they find that they're quite miserable. In fact, I just read a long article about Matthew Perry, which I touched on a previous episode, but his struggles with addiction were just like insane. I had no idea how insane, and he had enough ketamine in his system when he died, which was supposedly like a therapeutic drug now. Ketamine is basically anesthesia, like when you get knocked out at the hospital, like that's one of the drugs they'll give you for that. And now people are dosing on it, like low dosage. Well, he had enough to like kill someone, I think 1.5 times his size.
Wow.
Anyway, it's sad. It's sad that the celebrity world is so full of kind of the soul-sucking parasites and, for our entertainment. So it's good. Good Hulk Hogan got baptized and has found joy. Maybe he'll have some, maybe some more folks will follow his lead,
Hope so.
Okay. Maybe another article or two. We're making good time, I guess. So this was I did say in our little text chat that I wouldn't talk about this too much without a Roman Catholic present to sort of defend what the Pope is up to. But it's such a hot news item, and until Juan Carlos and I can get back together with James and Gomer, as he's called, to talk about Michael, to talk about Roman Catholic issues again, we want to keep doing that series. There was a very odd document that the church put out, basically saying that Catholic priests can, in some manner, bless homosexuals in committed relationships. Not marry, so you still have the sacrament of marriage, and that's unchanged. It's still a man and a woman. But there are these like lower tier blessings in some way. They're now allowed. So let me just read a little bit of this. It's a long article. This is from the Pillar, pillarcatholic.com, but there are lots of interesting articles about it. Mace sent one over from Not the Bee. Once again, that is a pretty good summary.
Esteemed news source.
Esteemed news outlet. I mean, hey, as good as anything else these days. Anyway, in a preamble to the 5,000-word document, Fiducia Supplicans, issued December 18th, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez said that the text marked, quote, a specific and innovative contribution to the pastoral meaning of blessings. Quote, such theological reflection based on the pastoral vision of Pope Francis implies a real development from what has been said about blessings in the magisterium and the official text of the church. Well, that's actually exactly what I'm afraid of, a real development. Right. What does this declaration, which is likely to provoke passionate reactions around the Catholic world, actually say? And it kind of goes through it, and this is a very long article, and the document itself is 5,000 words, and no, I have not said it. But kind of here's the bottom line, is that the Catholic Church can bless those who are in unions of persons of the same sex. And so then the question becomes for us, what is a blessing? What are we doing? And within Catholicism, why are there always all these tiers of everything? There's mortal sin, there's venial sin. Okay, maybe that's what James is talking about. That was referenced in our last episode we did with our Roman Catholic friends. Okay, maybe there are some distinctions between types of sins. We would say no as Protestants on that, but okay. But, then you have kind of sacraments where these really special things, and now you have these kind of, like I said, lower tiered blessings. Well, what is a blessing? I mean, you guys are pastors. What do y'all say? How do we define blessing? What are we accomplishing there,
Well, I mean, you're essentially claiming goodness on something, or recognizing the goodness of something. Maybe in the most friendly reading of something like a development like this one is that you would wish somebody well. Mm-hmm. Okay, which of course we're called to love our enemies, for example. So is that what you mean by a blessing? We pray for those who persecute us, for example. Is that what you mean by blessing? Because if you do, then if that's what you mean, how is this a development? So it doesn't seem like that's what you mean. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't, because then you're not developing anything. You're just going back to Matthew 5 and 6. So it doesn't seem to be that. If you're proclaiming that there is some kind of goodness in this kind of relationship, then we have parted ways with a scriptural understanding of what is good, and also of what love is, mm-hmm. right? Not only what love between two people, but how are we to love those who are not living according to what the Bible would demand? Yeah.
We're probably a little different in this regard. There are different traditions that will bless objects, for example, like bless wedding rings at a wedding, or mm-hmm. bless a house, do a house blessing if somebody moves into a house. And Catholics, I think, they bless things and objects more than we do. And some in the Reformed or Calvinist camp would never bless an object. But the point is that what we're saying is, well, this is a good thing. Like if you bless have a nuptial blessing at a wedding, you're saying these two people have now come to be joined in the presence of God in this community. I'm going through the liturgy now. But like, this is a good thing. These two people are embarking on a good thing, that God made man and woman for one another, that they could have children, that they could have a family, that they could find vocational satisfaction in their life together, that they could be partners for one another. This is the way it ought to be, right? Isn't that what we're doing at a wedding? We're saying it's a good thing. Or if you do bless an object, let's say you do a house blessing. Let's say I even agree that's kind of a lower tiered blessing, but you're still saying we want this home to be a place of refuge, to be a place of joy, to be a place of hospitality, to be a place where children can come home from the hospital, where meals can be shared. We want this to be a good place.
You're implicitly condoning legitimacy of the thing that's being blessed.
Yes.
Right.
So this would be my question if our Roman Catholic friends were here. What exactly is it that two men who are in a same-sex union doing at home, at night, or maybe during the day? Because I feel like we need to start being blunt about this sort of thing. Because I think what has happened in a lot of the LGBT conversation is it's framed as, well, it's two people who love each other, two people who, that's just kind of their nature, it's kind of who they are, we can't really help it. And they're leading productive lives. They are, for example, fostering children, right? They are adopting children. They are pillars in their community. And who would want to go against that? You know, they're basically just like us, if you will, quote unquote, except that they love someone of the same gender. Is that really such a big deal? But the Bible, I don't think, allows that kind of justification. Because at the end of the day, if something like sodomy is wrong, then how can it possibly be blessed? I just don't understand how that can be done. And that's where I think we kind of need to start being a little bit more blunt. The Bible talks about what we do with our bodies, what is the purpose of our bodies, you know, to be fruitful and multiply, and these sorts of things. And to therefore say that there's some kind of socialized way in which these two men or these two women can live in a way that we can bless, I don't know how that's possible if the things that they're doing together are actions that cannot be blessed. That Romans 1 would preclude that Leviticus 18 and 20 would preclude that Genesis 19 would preclude, and on and on and on. You know, all the quote-unquote clobber passages, but not just the clobber passages, but Genesis 1.
Right.
Which is the positive declaration from the beginning.
Words of Jesus.
So tell me I'm wrong, please.
No. In fact, I mean, we don't have to guess about what a blessed person is, right? Psalm 1. Okay, so blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked. Okay, so does that work? Who nor stands in the way of sinners? Can we check that box? No. Mm. Nor sit in the seat of scoffers. Okay, no, but we can't really, maybe that one. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And on this law he meditates day and night.
You must be reading that wrong. The law is a terrible thing. And only the gospel. We're not gospel only here. No, but yes.
Lutherans.
But his delight is in the law of the Lord.
Yes, and on his life he meditates. And he's going to be like a tree who yields his fruit in its season. His leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers.
Now, let's see. The psalm, this hymnal of the Bible. And which psalm is this? This is one of the obscure middle ones, right?
That's right, yes.
It's tucked away in book 4.
Very first verse.
Yes, of the entire and so it fails that test. Yeah. Right? We're all sinners. So the question is not, do you have to be perfect before you can be blessed? That's not the point. Yeah. The point is, if I am living a life unrepentantly, if I am standing in the way of sinners, if I am sitting in the seat of scoffers, then, you know, I am going against the law of the Lord without repentance. Mm-hmm. You can't bless that. If you bless that, you're not loving me. Mm-hmm. You know who you're loving? You're loving yourself. Yeah. Because you don't want to do the hard work of saying you're wrong. It's like, why is church discipline? What is the purpose of church discipline? It's to reclaim the sinner. Yeah. It's a hard thing, but it's the purpose is that person will, as they see their need for a savior, they see themselves outside of the ark, as it were, they will understand the peril of their way and they will come back. And that's a merciful and loving thing. It's also strange that whenever you have developments that always seem to embrace what the world is doing, you have to be very suspicious as to what the motivation is. And time and again, certainly under Pope Francis, it seems like there's a lot of hand waving and a lot of, explaining that is being done. Oh, this is not what we meant. We meant this. This it's just not as bad
as it looks. It's not what you think. There's another way of thinking about it. But it appears very complex.
And by the way, it so appears to be playing the same tune that the world is dancing to. It's very problematic. Yeah. If you're a Roman Catholic, you ought to be very concerned about this. As a Christian, I'm grieved, not only because of for Roman Catholic brothers and sisters who could be in that church, but also because it does not is not a good witness to sinners of the grace that is found in Jesus Christ and of the power of repentance.
For sure. I'm looking up there was an article that I linked to, but I couldn't print, which was, there was an ad in the New York Times pretty much the next day. And Rod Dreher happened to be one who reposted it. But this was an ad. It says, it shows the headline, Pope Francis allows blessings of couples in same-sex relationships. And then this is the text. The Catholic Church is changing. get the inside story, get a smart Catholic take on everything from Congress to the Vatican, and that's from America, the Jesuit Review of Faith and Culture. And the Jesuits are, now the kind of the very liberal, if you will, leftist wing of the Catholic Church. And there was an image of there was a picture of Martin. I can't remember his name. Father Martin, Society S.J. Martin. He's on Twitter. He's a very left wing priest. And Joseph. Anyway, I can't remember Martin. And he was blessing a picture of him blessing a same sex couple. So they know exactly what this means, and they're already doing it. Right. Now it wasn't under the liturgical rubric of a sacramental marriage, but again, what you're doing is you're saying what you're doing in this lifestyle is sanctioned now by the church. I don't know how you possibly get away from that by some kind of lesser blessing. You're either blessing God or you're not. And how can you bless something that is totally contrary to something else that you would bless? You can't. It can't stand. It's like a house divided against itself. And if you look again, I keep going back to that foster parent article. It's going to have to be one or the other. They can't coexist, I don't think, in the long run. So I find it to be quite troubling. I mean, coming out of a liberal Protestant denomination where you saw this kind of language, well, bigger tent and inclusive, and we can give to you without, not. And now that denomination is wholly run wholesale by people in the pro-LGBT camp. There really is no conversation left to be had. And they will begin this same process we're seeing in the culture of excluding the kind of heteronormative, cisgendered, white, all of the, intersectional baddies, they're going to be, pushed out. What they have to say doesn't matter. They will be quoted out in the same way the minorities were once quoted in. So I don't think it's a good thing. I don't know what is to be done about it.
No, well, like you say, it seems to mirror what the culture is doing. It's like asking, well, is Barack Obama in favor of gay marriage? Well, that depends on which Barack Obama.
Right.
Is it 2008 Barack Obama?
Right.
Because I think he was against gay marriage.
Right.
Pro civil unions. But then 2012 Barack Obama was in favor of it.
Yeah.
Or at least 2014 maybe. So it's the same sort of thing. It's like, well, we're not going to bless marriage liturgically. It's not going to be a sacrament, but we can bless it in this other way. You can have a civil union, but not a marriage.
Yeah.
Well, we've played that game.
Yeah.
What is the motivation behind it? What is it that you're doing? Right now, what's interesting about this is that, when it comes to the Roman Catholic Church, as it does for the Eastern Orthodox communion, if you're not part of their church, there's a question as to whether or not you're even saved. Mm-hmm. Right. So for all the stuff since Vatican II, we're declaring Protestants, for example, to be separated brothers, the Council of Trent's anathema against Protestant tenets still stands. And if you believe in that justification is by faith alone, you're accursed, mm-hmm. for example. Right. If you believe that you in the assurance of salvation, you're accursed. Mm-hmm. So, and that's demonstrated at every Mass when you're not allowed to have communion, right? Well, who is it that I'm not allowed to have communion with? Well, if this is Christ's table, is with Christ. That's what you're saying. And the same goes for the Eastern Church, who, I think in its Western manifestation of it seems much more friendly to non-Eastern Orthodox people, but in the councils, they're very explicit as to if you're not in communion with the Eastern Orthodox Church, then you're outside of the ark.
Yeah.
And you're doomed to hell. If you don't love icons, for example, right? You're doomed in official teaching. So it's interesting. I mean, we're looking at this and saying, oh, look, the church is being more inclusive. The Roman Catholic Church is trying to be more inclusive towards gay people and maybe towards divorcees and all these things. But they've already made that move with Protestants in a way, mm-hmm. and we have forgotten about it, and we are pretending to have deeper connections that go beyond kind words, when in reality there's been no substantial change. So it's problematic.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? I have one last article I wanted to run by you guys.
Not a ton to add. I think, the word that comes to my mind for this one is just confusion, right?
Yeah.
Confusing that on the one hand, from what I understand, the defenders are saying, no, nothing has changed. That, like Juan Carlos began, to bless someone just means to wish well. Of course we wish well on them. But where the confusion comes in on the other side is they're going out of their way to not say people, but to say couples. And you have people within the Roman Catholic Communion that are calling this a development.
Yeah.
So my question is, did something change or did it not? And if it didn't change, if nothing has changed, why even publish this?
Yeah. It always feels like there's just a lot of sophistry, going on right now. It's just a lot of fancy talk and confusing language and that sort of thing. Here's the deal. Here's the sect that is sanctioned in the Bible, okay? A man and a woman in a marital relationship. Now, maybe the old Roman Catholic Church is even right about contraceptive or a contraceptive mentality. And maybe that's something we need to go back and think about. But generally speaking, man-woman marital relationship, that's what's sanctioned. You can't bless anything else. You cannot. It cannot be done. A church cannot do that. So I don't care if you rebrand the word bless. I don't care if you add, overnight, if Webster goes and adds, a blessing can also mean this. No. It cannot be done. So I just see, the sophistry doesn't help. And that's why as we have these debates, and we will be having one in April, Theology by the Pint will be, we need to be clear that there are actions that we do with our body that are right and good and blessed by God. And there are things that we do with our body that are wrong and that bring bad results. So anyway.
Yeah, and lead to death, right?
Lead to death.
Because again, this is actually, it ought to be a concern for the sinner that is driving us.
Yeah.
It's not, you're a worse kind of human being than I am. No, we're both sinners. We need the same thing. We need Christ. We need to repent and we need to turn to him. And if I can't tell you that, I'm not loving you.
Right. Last article. This is interesting to me on a number of fronts. We talked about the 3 university professors on a previous episode who were before Congress, and Elise Stefanik, who I said was Jewish on that episode. That's what I had heard. That apparently is wrong, so I want to correct that. Anyway, she was questioning them. Why can't they criticize the students at Harvard and Penn and MIT kind of going around chanting in favor of Palestine, which connects, of course, to Juan Carlos's previous article. Anyway, but after that, there seemed to be more scrutiny into the president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, and apparently there are over 40 allegations of plagiarism, 40 times where she seems to kind of have lifted whole or in part, some ideas from other people without proper attribution. One of the more humorous ones was her acknowledgments. You know how at the end of your dissertation you have acknowledgments like, thanks to my kids for being away from me while I wrote my book, or my loving husband who supported me in all that I did. She literally, there are phrases that someone used in a dissertation that she lifted. It's kind of prosaic ways of announcing, how she was. So it's like, how do you plagiarize acknowledgments? That's really sad. But anyway, what's interesting to me about it, though, I mean, not really necessarily getting into whether or not she should, lose her job or, what that should look like. It's that there are some things that have, well, first of all, civilization is very fragile. It actually only hangs together by this kind of voluntary cooperation of what we consider to be virtuous. You can't have an actual flourishing civilization at the point of a gun. It only works because we think that these things are important. So in the world of the academy, the kind of principal virtue is that your scholarship has to be legit, right? I mean, you can't copy what other people have done. It is the cardinal sin of the academy. You have to create new work. You have to do new research. You have to give attribution. You have to build on what other people have done. That's what scholarship is. That's what the academy is. It's building on knowledge. It's doing research, finding new things and bringing those to the table. So plagiarism is the cardinal sin. It's the worst thing you can do. It's a mortal sin, to borrow our Catholic friends' language. It would need to be absolutely confessed and absolved.
That's right.
With very severe penances for it. And many people have lost very high profile jobs. There was an article about a former like German like defense secretary found out he plagiarized. He lost his job. Many students are kicked out of school or put on severe suspension. Many professors have lost tenured positions for plagiarizing. I mean, it is a death blow to an academic career. And that's so kind of interesting to me that there's, and so by the way, as of right now, she is not being, as of what is today, December 22nd, she is not being punished.
Right.
She's actually given the opportunity to go back and rewrite those sections of her dissertation. Her dissertation, the thing that got her the doctorate to begin with. Mm-hmm. Which seems crazy to me that she would be given that opportunity when Harvard students would be kicked off. So there's double standards all over the place there. But it's funny to me that this is still, I mean, she does have to answer for it. She does have to rewrite her dissertation. She is going to get slapped on the wrist, and she might ultimately lose her job. I think there's still a very good possibility of that because it's so obviously, removes the high stature of Harvard when your president is a known plagiarist.
Right.
Okay. But it's
Wait,
funny.
of Harvard or the United States? Which plagiarist?
Well, he plagiarized too.
That's what
He plagiarized in law school, and he plagiarized other people's speeches. Like he's like a British guy whose speeches he plagiarized or something.
Yes.
But it's just funny the way that we tolerate certain things, or we get outraged about certain things and not other things. So we have this kind of like lawless thing going on in cities, where the Whole Foods 4 blocks from us right now had to close down because of massive amounts of shoplifting. And so we don't police shoplifting in cities anymore. We don't have the time, we don't have the resources. Basically, stealing is fine, but plagiarism, now that is really serious. So I guess what I'd like to see is just kind of some kind of uniformity, like where all these things are wrong. Stealing is wrong, plagiarism is wrong because that's a form of theft. But I don't know what should Dr. Gay's punishment be? What would y'all say?
I mean, I don't know if I have an exact prescription, but it was interesting to me the timing of this coming out, because I do some grading on the side for a couple classes at DTS. And so I'm in the middle of grading, all these final papers right now. And there have been a couple times in my short tenure as a grader that we've had to give zeros. And it was almost like painful for me. But I'm like...
You have like software you use?
Yeah.
Do you do that? Okay.
So all the papers are run through a system, and then it pulls up a report and it shows me. And, so... one particular student's paper, basically their entire introduction was copy and pasted from gotquestions.org.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's like, it pains me because but I'm like, this is objectively plagiarism. And that student got a 0, which if you get a 0 on a, major paper, it's almost impossible to pass the class. And so I think something must be done. In my opinion, she probably should lose her position, because I cannot see how it'd be anything other than a double standard for, a student to receive at best a 0 on a paper, if not a harsher punishment. Yeah. And then the president of one of the elite, educational institutions of our country to get nothing more than a slap on the wrist.
And by the way, I'm sure when she wrote these things, that software didn't exist. Sure. Because you're talking about, the late 90s. I don't know that you had the ability to comb through that vast amount of data to find that.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how they're finding away with it. Yes. I mean, basically, Christopher Rufo and other people who are against DEI and CRT, they're taking our papers, they're probably running it through that software, and they're going, here we go, here's 40. And it's relatively minor, but again, the academy is built on...
It's the principle of the matter.
It's the principle, and she obviously lied about it.
Right? Well, you wonder if you start doing that, how many professors would fail the same test. Yeah. Right? So there might be some vested interest in saying, let's move on. It's terrible. Nobody wants anybody to lose their job, hopefully, right? I mean, that has severe consequences. And certainly as Christians, we know that repentance is a gift that we have. And so we would hope to offer that to her. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It would be strange for her to retain her position given that she's violating the own rules of Harvard. Yeah. And so then you don't have integrity. And that's terrible for the institution. It's terrible for the students. I remember when I was at Rice, there was a student that she was in her last year she had been accepted to medical school, and she violated the honor code because of plagiarism on an essay for a humanities course. It wasn't even part of her, I can't remember what her major was, but it was probably biology or chemistry. And so she not only got an F for that, but she lost her acceptance to medical school.
Wow.
And you know, she was very repentant of it, as you can imagine, but it was, nope, these are the rules. And so we have to stick to the rules. It was devastating.
Wow.
So anyway, very painful. I don't know that I've seen that she's repented. I remember early on.
Oh, no,
she said, "I stand by my scholarship," which is very strange. It was like, well, okay. And now more instances of plagiarism have come out. So anyway, very sad.
When I went to a small school called Centenary, which was in theory kind of a Methodist school in Shreveport, Louisiana, and we had to write an honor code at the end of every paper and test. Like, it was basically I didn't cheat, I didn't whatever. And I had a friend who got caught cheating, and not really a friend, but someone I knew. And very serious consequence. But, the concept is that we only work as a society, as a civilization. It only works if we're kind of in it together. You know what I mean? Like, it's held together by the fragile character choices that we make. We're really when nobody's looking. I mean, that it's a cliche, but it's true. And so I'm hopeful. Yeah, I don't like to see people lose their job, but without accountability, I think a lot of people feel like, broadly speaking, certain people get away with things. And this would be another example, if she's not sort of punished, of someone getting away with things that the rest of us don't.
That's right.
She gets to lie and cheat and steal the work of other people without attribution, but we don't get the same privilege. Other people get to steal from stores while we have to pay. Certain sons and daughters of presidents don't have to pay taxes and they get a slap on the wrist, but we, don't tell the government about an $8 Venmo transaction and, the FBI might break down a door. That's a slight exaggeration. But I do think this is a good example of a frustration that a lot of people feel and a double standard or triple standard that a lot of people are feeling right now in our country. So I think it's going to end up being a kind of litmus test,
right,
as to where, will the elites get away with it again? Or there's another component, which is she's a black woman. And, which I'm perfectly okay with. But, there are some who feel like, well, there's a double standard there again, because, like, for example, the president of Penn was forced to resign as president, who was a white woman. So some people have said, well, she had to resign because she's a white woman. I don't know. I'm not saying that per se. I don't know. But I think there needs to be some resolution on this so that people feel like some things matter. Honor still matters. An honor code still matters. Otherwise, society just doesn't work. So, okay. Well, if y'all have hung in this long, we appreciate you listening. We covered lots of topics. Mace, where can people find you once again?
thejourneyhouston.org. And I'm boring, so I'm on Facebook still and Twitter. You can just look up my name, Mace Perez. There's not that many of us out there.
Cool.
Me only here in Jesus Christ and in the bosom of Abraham.
I love it. I love it. And I'm Evan McClanahan. I'm at First Lutheran, flhouston.org. And of course, Sarah unfortunately could not be here today. So she would want me to say theologybythepint.org. Check us out. Come to our events. Subscribe. Like us on YouTube. We'd love more subscribers there. More people can find us that way. Anyway, check out all that stuff. And until next time, we encourage you to question freely, think deeply, and disagree as needed.